Wow. You really weren't kidding when you said this whole Luigi Mangione thing was a rabbit hole.
Yeah, definitely a lot to unpack here.
I mean, $200,000
It's
already to his legal defense fund.
it's really something.
That's 4 times what they were even aiming for.
Yeah, it's pretty staggering, to be honest.
Really is.
And I think it says a lot about how much this case is really resonating with people.
Yeah, for better or worse, right?
Exactly.
So you sent over these articles from Newsweek and Business Insider,
Mm-hmm.
and even like a Reddit thread.
Oh, yeah, that thread is blowing up.
Yeah, that's buzzing about all this.
It is.
So clearly this is about way more than just a crime here.
Oh, for sure.
So let's dive in and try to understand like why this is hitting such a nerve with
Yeah.
people.
Sounds good.
So maybe a good place to start is with just like the facts of the case as Newsweek lays them out.
Yeah, so Luigi Mangione,
Okay.
he's 26 years old,
Okay.
and he's accused of shooting Brian Thompson,
Okay.
who is the CEO of UnitedHealthcare, and he's 50 years old.
Okay.
This happened earlier this month
Mm-hmm.
outside a hotel in Manhattan.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, where UnitedHealthcare was having one of their investor conferences.
Okay, so that sounds kind of like something out of a movie.
Right.
So did they have like any prior connection or is this totally random?
That's where things get a little more interesting.
Okay.
So Newsweek suggests that Mangione targeted Thompson specifically because of, UnitedHealthcare's role in the whole health insurance industry.
Okay.
It even mentions that Mangione was never a client of UnitedHealthcare himself.
So maybe not like a personal vendetta then, but more of a statement against the system.
Yeah, it seems like that's the narrative that's starting to form, at least.
Okay.
And to understand that, I think we have to look at Mangie's manifesto.
Oh, right. The manifesto.
Right.
Which they found on him when they arrested him, right?
Right.
Newsweek says it's just full of like anger toward the health insurance industry,
Yeah.
calling these executives parasites
Mhm.
and accusing them of profiting off of people suffering.
Pretty intense stuff.
But is that like representative of how people are actually feeling, or is it just like one guy's rage?
Well, for that, I think we should look at what people are saying online.
Okay.
The Reddit thread that you sent over is a really interesting mix of opinions.
Yeah.
Some people are even drawing parallels to other big cases like the Kyle Rittenhouse trial.
Oh, wow. Okay. For those who don't remember all that, can you remind us about that case and why it's being brought up here?
Sure. So Rittenhouse was a teenager when he shot and killed 2 people during those protests in Kenosha, Wisconsin,
Oh, right.
back in 2020.
Yeah.
And he said it was self-defense.
Okay.
And in the end, he was acquitted,
Mm-hmm.
which sparked this huge debate about vigilantism, gun rights, racial justice, the whole thing.
Right. So are people implying that Mangione is like a similar figure, someone
No.
who took the law into his own hands because he felt like the system failed him?
Yeah, I think that's kind of the undercurrent in some of these comments. Yeah, for example, there's this one user, individual.9605,
Okay.
who writes, "It's a sickness health insurance won't cover that."
Hmm.
And there's definitely a lot of anger and frustration there about healthcare.
Totally. And then there's this comparison to Daniel Penny, the
Yeah.
guy who was acquitted in the death of Jordan Neely on the subway here in New York.
Right.
So what's the connection there?
I think both cases raise questions about, when lethal force is actually justified
Mm-hmm.
and whether the legal system treats everyone equally.
Right.
The fact that these comparisons are even popping up suggests that people are grappling with some really big questions about justice and accountability.
Okay, so we've got a complicated case that seems to be tapping into some major societal anxieties
Yeah, for sure.
around healthcare, vigilantism, even class warfare.
Absolutely. And we haven't even gotten to the reactions from major political figures like Trump and AOC.
Oh yeah, I have a feeling those are going to be telling.
Yeah.
So let's
dive into that.
let's dive into what they have to say about all of this after a quick break.
Sounds good. Yeah, it's safe to say that Trump and AOC are coming at this from totally different angles.
Yeah, no kidding. So what did Trump even have to say about this? The Business Insider article mentioned something about a sickness.
Right. Trump released a statement
Okay.
basically calling the public's appetite for Mangione a sickness.
Wow.
And he compared it to all the support that Kyle Rittenhouse got.
Oh, wow.
Like you could almost hear the disapproval like dripping from his words.
Interesting. Why do you think he decided to frame it that way?
Well, I think it aligns with his whole tough on crime stance.
Yeah.
He tends to view these things through that law and order lens.
Right.
It's his way of telling his supporters that he's on the side of law enforcement
Yeah.
and against any form of vigilantism, no matter the motivation.
Okay, that makes sense. And how does AOC's perspective differ from that?
Well, she's acknowledging the anger and the frustration that a lot of people feel towards the healthcare system.
Mm-hmm.
Even though she doesn't condone what Mangione did,
Right.
the Business Insider article actually quotes her saying,
Okay.
of course we don't want to see the chaos that vigilantism presents. We also don't want to see the extreme suffering that millions of Americans confront when your life changes overnight from a horrific diagnosis and people are led to just some of the worst, not just health events, but the worst financial events of their and their families' lives.
So she's drawing a direct line from the failures of the healthcare system to this act of violence,
Mm-hmm.
even while she condemns the violence itself.
Exactly. It's a pretty nuanced take
It is.
that tries to address both the symptom and the root cause.
Yeah.
She seemed to be saying, look, I understand why some people might feel desperate enough to do something extreme,
Right.
but that doesn't make it right.
And that tension between understanding the anger but condemning the act really plays out in the Reddit thread, too.
Oh, yeah.
Like, some people are even comparing Trump's support of Penny and Rittenhouse to his stance on Mangione.
It's almost like they're trying to point out some kind of hypocrisy.
Yeah.
Anti-original username actually brings this up directly.
Okay.
They write, dude celebrated Kyle Rittenhouse Elmau edit. Dude was also hanging out with Daniel Penny and celebrated him grandstanding at its finest.
And then Gimme Sweet Time jumps in with, and invited Daniel Penny to the Army-Navy game as a hero.
Right.
So clearly there's some cynicism about whether the law is truly being applied equally.
Yeah, for sure. And you see that same kind of skepticism in comments like the one from Wise Potato Chip.
Okay.
Who says, they were so busy making money selling guns and ammo to Americans, they never considered that they might be used against them. Raw/leopard Satan me face.
So it's like they're saying the consequences of these policies and this rhetoric are coming back to bite those in power.
Exactly. And I think that sense of karmic retribution is part of what's fueling this whole folk hero narrative around Mangione.
That's fascinating because even though most people aren't saying that violence is okay, there's this sense of, well, he was fighting a system that's been crushing us for years.
Yeah, exactly.
So how do people reconcile that with this folk hero narrative?
Well, that's where the manifesto comes in.
Okay.
So while we don't have the full text,
Right.
Newsweek describes it as being full of despair and rage. Describing a system where things like healthcare, which are basic necessities, are treated as commodities.
Could you give us an example? What kind of language does he use to describe his experience?
Yeah, so the article quotes a section where he describes watching his own mother struggle with medical debt after she was diagnosed with cancer,
Oh, wow.
feeling powerless as the bills piled up.
That's awful.
He actually writes, they talk about life-saving treatments, but what they really mean is life-saving for those who can afford it. The rest of us are left to drown in debt or die trying.
Wow. That's powerful stuff. You can really feel the desperation.
Yeah.
How do you think that personal experience of his informed his worldview and then ultimately his actions? It sounds like he's expressing a feeling that a lot of people just get, that sense of being trapped in a system that doesn't care about them.
Exactly. And that's why his story is resonating with so many people,
Yeah.
even those who, don't condone his actions.
Right.
It really taps into that anxiety and resentment that's out there.
Mm-hmm.
Remember that $200,000 donated to his legal defense fund?
Yeah.
I mean, that says it all, really.
Yeah, that's hard to ignore.
Yeah.
But he is still facing some serious charges, right?
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's been charged with second-degree murder,
Wow.
which could mean life in prison.
Yeah.
And right now he's fighting extradition from Pennsylvania where they arrested him.
Okay.
This legal battle is far from over.
Yeah. It sounds like this could go on for months, if not years.
Yeah, it could.
But regardless of how it all plays out legally, it feels like this case has started a much bigger conversation.
Yeah, I think so too.
Yeah.
It's forcing us to face some hard truths about our society.
Right.
The fact that someone felt so desperate, so powerless, that they would resort to violence against the CEO. I mean, that speaks volumes about the level of disillusionment out there.
It's like Mangione, whether he's guilty or not, has become this symbol of that disillusionment.
Exactly.
Of the anger that people feel towards a system that just seems rigged against them.
Exactly. It's like he's become a lightning rod for all that frustration.
Yeah, so what can we as individuals even take away from all of this?
Oh.
What does it mean for the average person listening to this right now?
I think it's a call to action.
Okay.
A call to really examine the systems that shape our lives.
Yeah, not just healthcare, but everything.
Everything.
Education, housing, the justice system.
Exactly. We have to ask ourselves, are these systems actually serving us, or are they just perpetuating inequality?
And if we decide they're not serving us, what can we even do to change them?
That's the big question, isn't it?
It is.
It's easy to feel overwhelmed.
Yeah.
Like, what can one person do?
Totally. But change starts with each of us.
Okay.
It starts with awareness,
Mm.
with education, with having tough conversations.
Like this one.
Exactly like the one we're having right now. It's about holding our leaders accountable, right?
Absolutely.
Demanding transparency and fighting for a system that works for everyone.
Yes. And just as importantly, it's about seeing the humanity in everyone, even those we disagree with.
Yeah.
If we can't do that,
Yeah.
we're just going to keep repeating these cycles of violence and despair.
Yeah. This deep dive has been a real eye-opener for me.
Me too.
I'm definitely left with a lot to think about.
This case, with all its complexities,
Yeah.
it's a stark reminder that we're living in a time of upheaval.
Yeah.
The old ways are falling apart and the future is uncertain.
Totally.
But one thing's for sure,
What's that?
we all have a role to play in shaping that future.
So if this case has made you question things,
Yeah.
if it's made you think about the status quo,
Mm-hmm.
don't let that feeling fade.
Right.
Do something with it.
Exactly.
Get involved. Support the causes you care about, and never stop fighting for a better world.
Because the alternative, apathy and inaction,
Yeah.
those aren't options. The stakes are too high.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.
It's been a pleasure.
Until next time, keep questioning, keep learning, and keep pushing for change.